opening with epic orchestral music. The air was crisp the following morning as the village stirred to life. Smoke rose from chimneys, carrying the scent of fresh bread and roasted herbs. Kael stood in the training yard, his hands wrapped tightly around the hilt of his sword. Across from him, Roran paced like a wolf, his sharp eyes scrutinizing Kael's every move. Again, Roran barked. Kael lunged forward, his blade aimed at Roran's chest. The older warrior sidestepped easily, knocking Kael off balance with a swift kick to the back of his knee. Kael hit the dirt with a groan, but Roran offered no sympathy. "You telegraph your moves," Roran said, circling him. "Try again." Kael pushed himself to his feet, his muscles burning from the previous drills. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Torren and Erin watching from the fence, their faces a mix of concern and amusement. Erin smirked. He's too stubborn to quit. This time, Kael didn't charge head-on. He shifted his stance, feinted to the left, and then swung low. Roran blocked the attack but gave a small nod of approval. "Better," the older man said, "but you'll need more than that to defeat a seasoned warrior." Before Kael could respond, the sharp blast of a horn echoed through the village. Everyone froze. It was the signal for strangers approaching. The villagers gathered quickly in the square, their weapons at the ready. Queen Lyria stood at the forefront, her calm demeanor masking the tension beneath. Kael joined her, his sword in hand, as the sound of hooves grew louder. A small party of riders appeared at the edge of the village. They were clad in simple, travel-worn cloaks, but their posture and weaponry betrayed their skill. The leader, a woman with dark hair streaked with silver, dismounted first. She pulled back her hood, revealing sharp, angular features and piercing grey eyes. "Lady Illyria," Lyria said, her voice laced with surprise. Kael glanced at his mother, confused. "You know her? She was one of your father's closest allies," Lyria replied. Lady Illyria stepped forward, bowing slightly. "My queen," she said, her voice smooth and steady. "I have traveled far to find you." Lyria's gaze softened. "We thought you were lost in the coup." "I escaped," Illyria said. "Barely. But I've been gathering information ever since. Minister Drevich and his allies are tightening their grip on Arlindor. If we don't act soon, the kingdom will be lost forever." "We've been training," Kael said, "preparing for the fight. But we need more than just swords and bows. We need people." Lady Illyria turned to him, her eyes assessing. "You've grown, Your Highness, and you're right. We need allies. I've already made contact with several noble houses loyal to your father's memory, but they're waiting for a sign that the royal bloodline is still alive. Your leadership," Illyria said simply. That evening, a council was convened in the largest house in the village. Around the table sat Queen Lyria, Lady Illyria, Roran, Elder Mira, and Kael, with Torren and Erin listening from the sidelines. "The nobles will not risk their lives without assurance," Illyria explained. "They need to know that Prince Kael is ready to reclaim the throne." "I am ready," Kael said, his voice steady. "There's a Malvain garrison stationed near the border, small but heavily fortified. If we can take it, it will send a message to both our allies and our enemies." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed her words. "It's a bold move," Roran said finally, "but a dangerous one. That garrison won't fall easily. That's why we'll need strategy," Lyria said, her gaze sharp. "And stealth." Kael nodded. "I'll do it. Tell me what I need to know." The following night, under the cover of darkness, Kael and a small team set out for the garrison. Torren and Erin insisted on joining, along with Roran and Lady Illyria. As they approached the garrison, Kael felt a knot of fear tighten in his chest. The stone fortress loomed ahead, its walls patrolled by armed guards. "We'll need to cut off their supply line first," Roran whispered, pointing to a narrow path where wagons of food and weapons were being transported. Kael nodded, his mind racing. This was no longer training, this was war. Illyria handed Kael a small vial of dark liquid. "Poison," she explained. "For the guards' water supply, it won't kill them, but it'll incapacitate them long enough for us to strike." Kael took the vial, his hands trembling slightly. The plan unfolded with precision. Erin's arrows silenced the sentries, while Torren and Roran took down the guards patrolling the perimeter. Kael slipped into the fortress, his heart pounding as he poured the poison into the water barrels. When the time came to attack, the guards were too weak to fight back effectively. Kael led the charge, his sword flashing in the moonlight as he fought alongside his companions. By dawn, the garrison had fallen. Kael stood on the battlements, looking out over the battlefield. "This is just the beginning," he said softly. Lady Illyria stepped beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You've done well, Your Highness. The nobles will hear of this victory. They will rally to your cause." Kael nodded, determination blazing in his eyes. For the first time, he felt like a king,